Which team, guys, do you think has the biggest question marks? Kyler and the Cardinals, the Niners, or those Seahawks, KB?
The 49ers went to Lambeau and beat Rodgers at the end of an MVP season without scoring an offensive touchdown. That is a loaded team that now has one of the biggest question marks and one of the most pivotal players, never mind the NFC West, I think in the NFL, the whole deal. If Trey Lance can play, the Niners are set. They are cooked. I just don't know if he can. And they're being really weird and cagey, as you would expect. They're not doing the McAdoo thing and just coming right out and saying, he's our starter and Jimmy's gone. I mean, I shouldn't have said that. No, it's like if you put it this way, if you were to search Trey Lance, you'd get two stories. One, Niners aren't talking about his future. And two, headline, Trey Lance shows off his massive back tattoo. That's all that's out about him right now. Apparently he got a whole bunch of tattoos. Good for him. They could win the Super Bowl if Trey Lance can play. Think about it. In the title game, beating Rodgers in the divisional round with like a highly limited injured Jimmy Garoppolo. That is how good their team is. But I have to say, Peter, there's a lot of weird stuff about Debo out there right now. Like a lot. There's a lot of smoke, and there's things where like Debo's brother is allegedly in comments of social media posts saying we're not playing for the Niners anymore, and there's a we. So Debo really wants to be paid, and he should, but I don't know what his future is. So the reason I bring that up is that this whole Trey Lance conversation is always like, you sit back there and do the Shanahan offense, and you hand it off to Debo, and there's a lot of mystery here. And I think it's important because Cardinals, fine. Everybody else, fine. The Niners can win the whole thing. And I mean, not just the division, the league, if Trey Lance comes out and can play.
No, I think there might be no bigger question mark in the NFL than what we're getting with the 2022 49ers, because they had this great run at the end of the season. They find themselves in the playoffs. They upset the Cowboys. They upset the Packers. And then they find themselves in the NFC Championship game up 10 in the fourth quarter. And it's like, and now here we are 3 months later, and we're like, who's the quarterback? Is the best player on the team going to be on the field? They have to also extend Bosa. And, maybe some of the important people who are building that offense all fled to Miami. I look at the assistant coaches here. I think this is a question mark. Mike McDaniel is no longer there. He was in charge of the run offense last year. He brought with him Wes Welker. He brought with him John Embry. And then these other guys, Scangarello, who was the quarterback's coach, he goes to the University of Kentucky, not to be their head coach, to be their offensive coordinator. And then they hire Brian Griese out of the Monday Night Football booth to be the quarterback's coach for Jimmy or Trey alone, or Jimmy and Trey. There's just so many question marks with the 49ers. They don't have a first-round pick. They don't have a timetable on this Debo Samuel thing. And you brought up the Debo stuff. I think it's interesting because Debo's, he did an Instagram video where he's like, fans are calling me names, and I'm hearing things of racist nature, and I don't, I'm not being a diva. And then his brother came out and said, well, we're not going to. And then his brother came out and said, I'm only kidding. I'm not talking like it. There's just a lot going on, and the truth of the matter is Debo Samuel was that offense. He was the engine last year. And if any of these receivers go into this situation, including A.J. Brown, DK Metcalf, Terry McLaurin, could say, hey, guys, I'm kind of important, and I think I should be taken care of the way I use my body and how physical I am, it might be Debo. And yet the 49ers, they don't rush to pay their guys. They made George Kittle wait. They made Fred Warner wait. They made, Trent Williams wait. So not only one question mark, multiple question marks. Talking about coaching staff, talking about quarterback, and talking about their star player on offense. I don't know what I'm getting from the 49ers right now, and yet they were the NFC Championship game this season.
I'm not trying to, sorry, Sean, I'm not trying to, you make such valid points with those questions, but when you really think about, Debo was so hot last year. The year before that, he wasn't a factor.
He was out.
And they were competing. And Jimmy Garoppolo was the quarterback. So to me, it's like, strangely, even though there's such question marks, quarterback situation, no Mike McDaniel, that's huge. Great point to point that out. Don't you still think they'll just kind of be okay, though? You don't?
I don't know what I can't envision it, because I don't know who's under center.
I feel like they'll be in the mix again with Kyle Shanahan.
Yeah, they'll find a way.
I feel like they always weirdly find a way. They've got a million injuries. They've got the pass rush. They've got the mastermind. And to me, I just sort of rest on that. Is that naive?
No.
Well, no, I'm with you on the Kyle stuff, too. I feel like Mike McDaniel, that's definitely the...
real quick, just to answer Kay's question, as long as you got Fred Warner, Nick Bosa, and Eric Armstead, you're going to be in games.
Jimmy G or Trey Lance?
Yeah, you're going to be in
games.
I don't know.
Whereas, I also know about the Seahawks. I think they're going to be not
Yeah, well,
great.
I
What do
mean,
you
look,
think?
I think there's a lot of question marks about them, but for the 49ers, that defense is loaded absolutely. And look, you talk about Trent Williams, best left tackle in the game.
Yeah,
like,
I
they
forgot
win
that,
games
yeah.
with Nick Mullins. Like Kyle Shanahan always finds a way to get the most out of whatever the quarterback is. But yeah, for Seattle, I feel like I'm looking at the Seahawks. They just traded Russell Wilson, and if you think that Drew Lock coming in there is going to win more games than Russell Wilson did last year, Russell won 7 games last year. Right? There's a lot of question marks for these Seahawks right now. Defensively, they're Bobby Wagner. Not just the fact that they lost him, but the way that whole thing went down. It just left a bad taste, I think, in Seahawks fans' mouth and certainly in Bobby's. But when you look offensively, all right, you think Drew Lock is going to be better than Russell Wilson at throwing the ball to DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett? Like, he's going to all of a sudden spark this offense? My other question mark for them is who's playing left tackle? All right, Dwayne Brown is not there. Their left tackle right now is a 6th rounder they drafted. His name is Stone Forsythe. I had to ask
Stone Forsythe.
who their left tackle
Great
was.
name.
And like, if you're Drew Lock right now, okay, that's my left tackle. That's who we're going to try to block Bosa with. In that division, we're talking about the Niners and the defending Super Bowl champion Rams.
Yeah.
For Seattle, look, I think right now they're in last place in their division. So there's a ton of question marks for them.
But are there question marks? Because there aren't. They're not going to be very good. Like, I think, sorry to say, to Seattle fans, can they surprise me? Can Stone, by the way, I've just convinced myself I'm naming my firstborn Stone.
It's a great
It's
name.
a cool name.
Yeah.
What a name
Stone
Stone
Cold.
is.
Gossard.
But I don't have a question that I think they're going to be good even though they have all these issues. They're probably not going to be very good this year.
You've already written them off. Yeah.
Kind of. I just don't have... Drew Lock isn't an upgrade. I don't think he's going to get the ball to DK. I don't know if DK Metcalf is staying. I'm not thinking about them. To me, it's the Cardinals a little bit. And I turn it to you, Kyle, because it turns into this sort of thing. It's one thing to know, we need to figure out our quarterback situation. Is it Trey Lance? Is it Jimmy Garoppolo? Is it Locke? Is it blah, 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 blah? What are we doing in the draft? Do we jump the Panthers and take a guy? Or is the tougher spot to say, we have a super talented quarterback, maybe the best in the talent-wise, insane, that doesn't seem to work, doesn't seem to fit. What's a bigger question mark? What's tougher? What situation would you prefer? The Kyler Murray experience, what we saw in the last 6 games, and that playoff performance. To me, we don't even talk about that playoff performance as much as because we don't have an answer. Yeah. We don't want to hypothesize about what it could be, what we don't know, and we like to use fact here, and, instead of just throwing stuff at a wall. To me, there's no bigger question mark than the Cardinals, Kyle.
It is really strange, and all the questions don't have any good answers. I get it. He's so talented. He's so talented. Look, there's a lot of guys who are talented. Jamarcus Russell is really talented. I'm not comparing the two necessarily, other than to say that it's time to have the production and it's time to be the face of the franchise. And all the questions about are the Cardinals going to be in the long term for Kyler? If they're not, for some reason, just where are they going then? There's no plan B. We've talked through the Colt McCoys and we've talked through the rookies. Those aren't viable answers. That's not it. So if they want to be in with Kyler and pay him $42 million a year, you better love him. And never mind the talent. The talent, fine. Do you love being in business with him? Do you want to be in business with him for 8 years? If you don't, you got to get out. But I don't know where they go.
Sure.
So that is a big
question.
question.
It's a question of how do you even go about fixing this? What is the It's just, what?
Don't know. Unless you pay him that money, he's not going to be happy. And he wants to be paid now. We know that. I'll throw in another thing. Aaron Donald wasn't at workouts yesterday.
Sure,
he's in Pittsburgh.
Right.
All 4 of these teams, and Aaron Donald, he might been through this 2 different times with Aaron Donald covering him in his contracts. He wants to be paid. So that might be a long, drag-it-out thing all summer also. It's going to be a long offseason of players seeing how far they can go, playing
Cooper
chicken.
Kupp,
That's good drama if you're the Rams. That's good drama.
Is it? You got to pay Cooper Kupp. You got to pay this guy. You got to pay that guy. Aaron Donald wants to break the bank.
Those are good problems to have, is what I'm saying.
Kind of, but then there's that feeling when
different than Kyler.
They're shirtless and Sean,
having a blast.
Like, hey, come back, and Donald's like, yeah, and it's all fun and games and shirtless.
I'll tell you this: covering Aaron Donald contract extensions twice now. They were ugly the first couple times, and now everyone's kumbaya and all this stuff. I would hope that doesn't go that route, but where our show is on in June and July, you better believe there's going to be some A blocks talking about Aaron Donald if he doesn't get paid.
NFC West, woo, love